everyone, and welcome to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 328. Was that really Banksy? Hello, Big Chillians. Welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Sam and Eddie. So I'll leave it up to you two since you guys were together this weekend. How were the festivities? First time you guys were together since we started this podcast. I don't know if you knew that or not, but
yeah, no, we realized over the course of the weekend it was the first time that any of us had seen each other in person since the podcast started. So that was pretty special. No, it was a fun weekend, some late nights out, not too much sleep, especially less sleep for some of us. But yeah, it was a fun weekend.
You are insistent with this. Yeah, it was good fun. The arc was good. Maybe not the results we had predicted, but yeah, there it was. Our biggest winner of the arc, is that odds-wise, or?
I mean,
can't be far off.
I would have to imagine that there's not been. I mean, on track it was 68-1. It was 100-1 over the weekend with a lot of British bookmakers. So yeah, big price winner. Now, we don't have to go into it too much, right? It was a very good race and a good finish, and it's absolutely flown home to win. I think it's it was the best horse on the day, no doubt about that. And I do think there is the temptation sometimes to dismiss races when there are major upsets and to try and then say that they aren't good. But Sam, you and I had a conversation about it yesterday. There's now talk that will be just retired to stud. I think if there is, and a lot of the takeaway from this is that not enough credit is given to German racing and that people don't have the correct level of respect for racing in Germany. If they want German racing to be taken seriously, then you have to keep the horse racing post a big win so that it's not possible to just say, well, they were tough conditions. He sprung a surprise on a few people and then retired and never got to prove that it wasn't a fluke.
Well, I mean, the thing that actually I want to mention was in our preview, your big stat A that you had is no horse has ever won without winning a Group 1. And we were kind of eliminating horses who, lower down the list, odds-wise, had never won a Group 1. And I guess we never made it to Lead Tasso or Torquato or Tasso or whatever. But it has won Group 1s. And that was kind of one of the things. We kind of overlooked the fact that it was a Group 1 winning horse, albeit that was in Germany, but it's still a Group 1 winning horse. And it had come second to Alpinista, which is a pretty good horse on its day. So it did have some form, when you look at it, and it did at least tick that box of having won that Group 1 race.
Yeah, and obviously the form of that race behind Alpinista has now worked out tremendously well, because since then, the first three in that race have all subsequently won another Group 1. So that form looks incredible. But still, I don't think it's an undeserving winner, and it clearly was underrated perhaps coming into this race. I mean, when you hear Ryan Moore, for example, speaking about it post-race, that's sort of what he felt. But it's a little bit like when we speak about the problems with, say, the Derby, where we've had lots of winners in recent years who then haven't gone on to do anything special. So you want the horse to stay in training to prove that this wasn't a one-off and it wasn't a fluke. Otherwise, it's kind of easy to dismiss it as just, well, there was a lot of rain and there's a lot of horses in behind that would say they would have won had there been less rain, which is fundamentally the storyline that all the other major players in the market are spinning. With Tarnawa, it's what Weld is saying. Appleby feels as if that was the case basically with both of his major horses. So you have feelings from other trainers, even Snowfall. O'Brien implied that it was just a little bit too soft, and it felt as if she traveled well over the course of the race and was well positioned and just wasn't able to pick up in the right way. So hopefully, go for it again. I hope to see an arc next year with sort of the 5 or 6 major players in the market reappearing, and then we get to see if it was a fluke or not.
Yeah. So I mean, from what I've read, Hurricane Lane and Adayar are going to stay in training as 4-year-olds. So those would be 2 that would definitely come back. But I think I was a little confused, Eddie, when I saw that the going and I saw it was heavy. I mean, meteorologist Eddie Hewitt told me on the preview that there wasn't much rain and you don't expect it to rain so much in between those 2 days that it would get heavy. And I mean, is this the end of your meteorology career, Eddie? I don't know.
Before it even kicked off the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I did repeatedly say that I'm not a meteorologist. And the torrential downpour.
Oh, you're just humble. You're just humble, Eddie.
The torrential down. Yeah, the torrential downpour that I said needed to come in order for the going to change came, and in particular on the morning of the racing. I mean,
it came for about 15 minutes
while Sam and I were outside. So, but like there was a lot of rain Saturday evening, Saturday night, Sunday morning, and that was enough. But there was a lot of dispute on Saturday. I don't know if you saw that, but for the racing on Saturday, multiple different bookmakers, media outlets were reporting the going in different ways. I saw a whole range on Saturday of everything from good to soft, as in not good to soft, but the full range of some people saying good and some saying it was soft. And I mean, there were people on social media complaining a lot because obviously that changed, in particular, say Stradivarius's chances in the cadre.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting. I was reading about it as well. How a lot of people say that it's kind of slowly ending this kind of dominance of 3-year-olds in the arc as well. So you look at like recent winners. You've got kind of Takeda Tasso was 4, Scott Sass was 4, Walt Geist was 5, and Abel was 4. Granted, Enable was 3 before that as well. But when you look at like the early 2000s, it was basically only 3-year-olds that won it as well. So a lot of people are saying that kind of the 3-year-old dominance of this race is starting to break as well, which is an interesting way of looking, because whenever I've seen kind of previews of arcs, they've always said stay away from like 5-year-olds and like kind of older horses and stay a bit younger. But yeah, quite an interesting point to add as well.
Yeah. And then there's obviously the chance you would expect if a lot of them do stay in training next year, then it will be a very strong 4-year-old class that you would expect to be headed towards the arc. So some pretty spectacular 3-year-olds will have to emerge in order for them to suddenly to put themselves in real contention at the top of the betting market. But
so you think next year's arc will be the best ever? Is that what you're saying?
I'll say this. If I don't think Chronogenesis will come back, just because Chronogenesis will be 6, and it seems you usually get the sort of one shot as a big foreign raider to come in and give a go. I think if you're telling me that the winner and say 3 of the other top 5 in the betting are all back, then you'd have to imagine that 1 or 2 3-year-olds put themselves in the running, then you might be able to then start to argue that it is, because not only then do you have good horses, but you have horses that have proven themselves over multiple seasons and also have done it. I think a lot of people will have come out of that feeling good about themselves post arc, even though they didn't win. Tarnarwa probably feels, Weld will feel better about Tarnarwa now, and same with Hurricane Lane. But now we had a good weekend. We had a couple big nights out. We had the racing. We nearly went to the racing on the Saturday. We were debating. I actually probably shouldn't share the way we were contemplating going to the racing on Saturday publicly, just because we might also want to take advantage of it in the future. So I don't think it's a good thing to just put out there. But yeah, we had, and then the Premier League, college football, and then a big night out watching the NFL on Sunday. I mean, for Sam, that must be the most NFL you've packed into an evening. And, you packed a lot in, this weekend, but that must have been, a real focus on football for a Sunday.
Yeah, it really was actually. Yeah, I
Yeah,
will
I'm
say it's probably
surprised you were able to get that much in. I mean, it sounds like it was a lot to get in, and you definitely, it took some effort, but it sounds like you got it in.
Yeah.
that's why I had to go over into the second day.
No, I mean, he's, obviously I multitask better than I thought, and was also just, because red zone can be intimidating for a lot of people. We were in a bar with maybe 7 screens on plus red zone, so their games were, there was distractions all over the place. So, he was able to pack in everything that he would have wanted, and really come away from it enjoying his Sunday night.
Very much so. I can confirm that a lot actually. First time I've ever watched a full college game. I will say that. Like I haven't needed to in a way. Like I'll just watch any highlights if there's big games or discussion points. But first time I watched a college game. It's
Did anyone else come with you?
Not on the Saturday college football, it was just the two of us. But Sunday we had a good crowd. We went post races to a bar that sort of as you get back into Paris. So it was an interesting mix. I've been there before post dark, but an interesting mix inside because you had a lot of Irish and English people there just from the races who were still there. You also then had people who normally go there on a Sunday to watch the NFL. You had the City Liverpool match on when we arrived, so we had the ending of that. And then you could also tell the differences because most of the screens had the NFL on then subsequently, and then one screen was just dedicated to random sporting events that this group of Irish people were betting on. So that screen never showed anything that anyone else wanted to watch, but it was interesting trying to figure out exactly what they were betting on. But
so I guess
a big Sunday, I guess.
NFL.
There's some big major talking points from the weekend's NFL. I don't know where we want to start. Do we want to start with sort of how the Sunday finished with the Patriots, Tom Brady's return to New England?
And the
Yeah,
goal.
Yeah, he played well, but obviously got very lucky with the field goal hitting the upright. Had that been Vinatieri back in Brady's day, Brady could have
I thought Brady
gotten the L
was
there.
I thought Brady was mediocre. He was good. He actually kind of kept stalling inside the sort of 30-35. And so they missed a lot of opportunities to really pull ahead in the game. He didn't play badly, but it wasn't exactly faultless.
Now, do you think that's because this was a big talking point pregame? Do you think that has to do with Belichick knowing probably better than anyone what to try to do against Brady to slow him down and doing that?
No, I just think, he's relied pretty heavily on Gronk so far this season. He didn't have Gronk. I think that was a big miss for them as just the kind of pressure release valve that he can have and know that it's always available. And also, Gronk has been super active for them in the red zone. So they lost probably what has so far this season been their biggest red zone threat, which is where they started to struggle in that match. I mean, I think Belichick will come out of that feeling he did well. It was a well coached game from his perspective up until I think he got the final decision wrong to go for the field goal. I think asking your kicker to attempt a 56-yard field goal in the rain when actually you were moving the ball pretty well on offense and you had a 4th and 3. I think they had a better chance of picking up that 4th and 3 than they did of kicking the 56-yard field goal. But as usual, that's very much outcome-based analysis. But what I didn't love about attempting the field goal, there were 55 seconds left anyway, and the Bucs had 2 timeouts. So even if you kick the field goal, go up 1, you're then telling Tom Brady, you got basically as unlimited time fundamentally to go 40, 45 yards to give yourself then a shot of winning it. So that's why I don't love the call, even if you get the field goal.
Did you see Belichick's reasoning though? I mean, it's kind of it's kind of fair. So basically, he's saying that look, I think they were like 2 for 9 on third down conversions. They had no rushing game going. So if they were going to go for it on the 4-3, it was going to have to be a passing option anyway. And it was like there's probably no guarantee because of the way you haven't been confirming, but. A, I kind of agree with you. B, Mac Jones had actually been throwing the ball really well. I think there was something like he had.
I know you were
19
impressed by it.
straight
You wouldn't
passes.
stop talking about it during the Bucs game. You were just heaping praise on Mac Jones. I couldn't make you shut up.
The benefits of extended highlights, I guess, is probably the thing that worked.
Oh, were you
in my
distracted
favor.
during that time?
Yeah,
I thought he just kept talking about the tight end.
Yeah, the Gronk was a big miss, but
yeah, Mac Jones completed was it like 19 straight passes going into the Bucs secondary.
Also, right, the Bucs we're missing basically everyone from their secondary. So I think there's context to consider there. I wouldn't have gone for it, but I mean, I would have gone for it. But now the real question that came up as a result of this, and I know, Frank, you love a little bit of trivia. Who was the last rookie quarterback to beat Tom Brady? So you got to factor in, right? He played. I'll give you the one clue. He's not lost to a rookie quarterback at the Bucs yet. And then obviously, right, Belichick has that dominance over rookie quarterbacks historically. So not been many.
It's tough. Rookie QB. Lamar Jackson?
Nope. Would you like a clue?
Could I? Okay, have
wait,
the clue, and then I'll see if my guess goes with it.
Is it an division rival?
It is he was playing on a divisional team at the time, yes.
So I was going to say like the Jets with Sanchez. I remember when I started watching it, I'm pretty sure he was like a pretty promising rookie at the time.
It's surprising that Mark Sanchez caught your eye there, Sam. But
why?
But no, it was not Mark Sanchez.
Okay. It's not Josh Allen. Because that was too recent. I mean, the Jets went through a lot of QBs. It's not Darnold. He was seeing ghosts. Who else did they have? Is it the Jets?
It is the Jets. Do you want the year?
It's probably not going to help.
2013. He was a second-round pick.
I give up.
Geno Smith.
Oh, yes. Geno Smith. Good old Geno Smith.
Currently a backup on the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, surprising he's still in the NFL.
Yeah, he's been with the Seahawks for a couple years. He's got that good sweet spot, right, of just could hang around there forever as long as they keep Russell Wilson as being someone who might be able to come in and kind of do a Russell Wilson imitation if they really need someone to. I guess that's an interesting transition to the Seahawks, who put in a pretty good performance against the Niners. Niners started pretty well, but then the Seahawks really bossed that game for most of the rest of it.
I mean, for me, I think if Garoppolo doesn't get injured, I think the Niners win that game. I mean, you look at the stats for Trey Lance, and they speak a little too much for what he actually did. I mean, he had that one pass of 60 yards to Samuels.
I think like 70. Yeah.
I mean, there was no one within. I think they said it was the most open a receiver's been all season, according to like next gen stats. I think it was 16 yards was the nearest person. So when you take away that and you watch most of that game, he didn't play exceptionally well. And I think Jimmy G was clearly playing better, especially that first drive. The Niners came out, looked like they were going to crush it. And then they kind of stalled from there. But I think if you had Garoppolo, you get maybe 2 more of those drives in the second half. And I think they would maybe win, or at least not give the Seahawks more opportunities, with 3 and outs and stalled drives that the Niners were getting. So, I mean, I wasn't not impressed with the Seahawks, but I wasn't overly impressed. I still think they are what I think they are.
Oh, so now you're stealing my lines?
Yes, you are lying.
So then I guess, do we go to the most impressive team from the weekend, which
Well, I mean, the number one team in the NFL.
the Arizona Cardinals? Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a best team in the NFL right now. We don't really do power rankings. We did put the Rams at number one if you were forced to. I think obviously not that this is WWE or boxing. They haven't taken that belt from the Rams, but certainly they put themselves there for now. And there's a pretty good chance they can hold it for a while. Obviously, they've got San Francisco next. If they win that, then they start to seriously make a strong case for themselves as Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, I mean, they looked good, and it wasn't one of those games where, yeah, I think they were the better team. To put it a different way, I mean, I don't think they were outplayed at all. I think they had a better offense, and their defense was able to slow down Stafford. Definitely gave him some trouble. He didn't look as good as he has, but that offense, no one seems to be able to stop it. I mean, they're averaging, I think now 33, 34 points a game. They're like the Chiefs, but with a better defense now.
Yeah, I think the concern for them, right, is that we saw them do this at the start of last season and then they fell off a cliff. A large part of that was because Murray got hurt, but they got a lot of players in that team who I'd be a little bit worried about their ability to be healthy in the long term. And so that's the big question mark right now. And when it works, it looks amazing. I mean, when things are clicking for them, it's hard to see how a team can beat them because I mean, you saw even on, every time you watch him, just his ability and it was interesting because he obviously had Seattle and Arizona playing at the same time. I think you get a kind of similar experience from both Murray and Wilson in that they just make those plays where you think you have them dead to rights and then they just get away. And not only is it not a sack, so it turns into a 35-yard play, 40-yard play, and it's a backbreaker because you can have it 3rd and 8 and think, oh, here we go. This is going to be a 7-yard sack. It's going to be a punt. And instead, oh no, now they're in the red zone. And I think that's what's really tough psychologically to go up against them. But yeah, he's very impressive at the moment.
Yeah, and I think what's nice there too is similar to Wilson, he's maturing in the sense that even when he's trying to force those big plays, he's not making turnovers off of them or not making mistakes. Whereas 2 years ago, he was doing that same thing and eluding DNs and linebackers, but then throwing into his stupid double coverage and getting an interception or fumbling it because he's holding the ball out too far. He seems to have cleaned that part up, kind of how Russell Wilson is really good with the ball. So that's really encouraging, I think, for them. My worry is, I've said it before, he's a small guy with a small frame. And when you are running around like that, you're going to take hits and one bad hit. And I think if Murray goes, this team is done. I don't think you have someone that can pick up the offense and be as electric as he is and win you games like he is.
No, I think that's the big risk over having a quarterback who is as unique and dynamic as he is. Same with Wilson. You are putting yourself in a position. The nice thing about having someone like Tom Brady or Jimmy Garoppolo or whoever it is yes, you might have your backup not be as good, but in the very least, they should be able to play in the same way and have the same role. And no, I mean, Murray goes out, they're toast. But he is now 5-1 favorite to win the MVP. You have Mahomes at 6-1, second favorite. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen's third in the betting. Tom Brady's fourth in the betting. I give that 0 chance. And then you have Aaron Rodgers, Herbert, Prescott, Stafford, kind of all there and thereabouts. Looking at those odds, I think I like Josh Allen. A lot of that will come down to what happens this weekend. But if the Bills beat the Chiefs, I think he'll then he could switch to being favorite this weekend, even if Murray puts in a good performance. Conversely, if the Bills lose to the Chiefs, he might be out of the running.
Yeah, and I think that is another kind of segue to the Chiefs cleaning things up and winning and playing better and how they should, and the Bills continuing to steamroll. I know it's the Texans, but 40-0 against any team is impressive.
Yeah, I guess. Maybe not that impressive as it's the Texans, who you just destroyed as a franchise over the past 12 months. But yeah, it's still good. But no, I mean this weekend overall, right? We're going to know a lot more about, because you just have these weird results that I'm still struggling to process, and like the Packers, I guess you just have to throw out their week 1 performance. Otherwise, they've looked pretty good. There's the Bills, I guess the same in that loss to the Steelers. It's kind of difficult to try and reconcile what we saw in week 1 from them and what we saw in week 1 with the Steelers from now what we're seeing. I mean, that just looks like a horrific loss. I think this weekend will answer a lot of those questions, because we'll know, are the Bills seriously legit? I mean, they're definitely a contender. They've proven that in the recent seasons, but have they pushed themselves potentially ahead of the Chiefs? And then at the same time, the NFC West will maybe start to. Well, the NFC West might even it will either become more confusing this weekend, or it could start to sort itself out. It will be more confusing if the Niners now beat the Cardinals. Then I just don't know what we're doing with this division, because it's just going to be everyone beats everyone and 10 teams wins it. 10 wins win it. But now I don't know if you have a strong opinion on what's seemingly the most controversial moment of Sunday, when the Ravens decided to run the ball with 3 seconds left to pick up the 3 yards they needed to hit the 100-yard mark, which was, I think, the 46th consecutive game in which they've had 100 yards, at least 100 yards of rushing, which ties them for the NFL record. And a massive fallout out of that, with it being called classless, a team that cares about the stats. Harbaugh kind of admitting the fact that they did it on purpose, but also saying, so what? Like, there's 3 seconds left. Why not go for it? I don't know if you had any opinions on how bad it was, if it mattered, if it's a storm in a teacup.
Is it like, so they're kind of liking it to showboating in essence? They're basically saying, like, look, we've already beaten you, it's easy, we're just going for our own records here and our own like prestige of being a team that's done this, so there's no consideration for the Broncos fundamentally. Is that kind of the point they're getting at with why they're livid?
Yeah, so I can't I can't remember the exact stat, but it was something along the lines of, in the past 50 years, a team that was up 17 points or more, so more than 2 scores, with under 20 seconds left, they're one of only 2 teams ever to attempt a run or a play other than kind of just kneeling down or taking the ball and just sitting there. They're the only ones that have attempted a rush or gained rushing yards, I think it was. So it's clear that no one does this except them. And I mean, to me, I think the easy answer is, from what we've seen over the years, especially in Michigan, the Harbaughs are assholes. That's the easy explanation. The Harbaughs are just assholes. Bottom line.
I mean, look, they got beat pretty bad, right? And I think the Broncos. This is maybe just me coming from it from a European aspect, but I just don't see it. I don't get this, like, oh, that's arrogant kind of thing. Like, I'm used to it in football, where or soccer, where people will do tricks in a corner when they're at the end of it, which is arrogant, but no one's going to sit there and go, oh, this is disgusting, this is a classless display. I just think it's a very reserved American thing to be annoyed in this scenario. Like, it doesn't matter what the Ravens run, in my opinion.
I mean, it's difficult to compare football, right, which is a fluid game, because the stronger parallels are obviously to rugby. I think still in rugby you wouldn't have. The thing that bothers me about it is it's such a meaningless record. That's what really. I didn't even know that this was a record that they were approaching, and no one cares. And so what bothers me about that is it just is stat tracking, and I would find that I would find that stupid in any sport. I think that's the thing. I don't care about it. It doesn't strike me as classless because it's meaningless. It's meaningless for the Broncos that they ran this. It's meaningless for the Ravens that they achieved it. And the only thing that's dumb about it is, I mean, someone could have got hurt. And from the Ravens' perspective, that's what's stupid. Is you could have had Lamar Jackson blow out his knee trying to get this record no one cares about, and your Super Bowl chances could have gone out the window because whoop-de-doo, you had 100 yards rushing.
Shouldn't the Broncos take more like kind of heart from the fact that they restricted the Ravens, a team that does run really well? They restricted them to 102, I guess, but like was it just over 3 yards a carry? Like I know that still seems pretty good, but for this Ravens team, like
Yeah.
I'd say the Broncos should take heart from the fact that defensively they stopped the Ravens' running game pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think the Broncos defense will be telling themselves that now. Same time, maybe if their offense had done a little bit more, then the defense would have been tested a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, it's a good defensive performance for sure. Now, what else from the weekend in the NFL? Really, in most things, sort of. I guess the big upset, right? The Titans losing to the Jets. We spoke about in our preview for the weekend that the line felt weird, that there was no reason to really think, even though the Titans were missing their two main wide receivers, there was no real reason to think that they should be losing to the Jets. But the line implied that it was a closer game than you would have thought. And that kind of made it look like it could be a trap game, which it's very dumb to think something might be a trap game just because the odds feel strange, but turned out it was a trap game. And I mean, for the Titans, they'll probably get away with it because their division is so bad that they don't have to be that good to make the playoffs. They continue to be firmly trash adjacent in my assessment of how good they are, but really bad performance. Only bright side for me was a lot of people went out in my Survivor thanks to the Titans. The Titans losing.
Just about to ask that.
And the Saints losing.
And the Giants winning.
Yeah,
Giants winning, Eddie.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, those were the most popular pick of the week was the Bills, which obviously makes sense. They were 16.5-point favorites. But after that, the Titans and the Saints were the two most popular.
Yeah, I cannot believe the Jets held on. I just felt like they were going to lose that game in true Jets fashion. And I give Zach Wilson credit. He didn't play the greatest game, but in the fourth quarter, he had a lot of good plays and had a lot of good drives to win them that game. So that was encouraging, I think, if you're a Jets fan, to see that it's not all doom and gloom, that there may be some light at the end of the tunnel if 2-3 years from now you can actually get a good enough roster around him and he's still alive.
Yeah, and also obviously the Jets hadn't won a game in a long, they're not winning a lot of games at the moment. Just nice as a Jets fan to feel what it's like to win again. So I don't think they're going to win many between now and the end of the season. But
now here's my question.
The person's got to feel really bad out of all this, right? The Lions are now at serious risk of ending up with the worst record in the NFL, which means Jared Goff, who has gone from a Super Bowl contender to a terrible team, now may find himself as a sort of unwanted quarterback on a bad team, just in the Jimmy Garoppolo situation, doing the job until he's able to, until the backup, the kind of high draft pick is ready to take over. But the rookie quarterbacks. We spoke about the fact they hadn't looked good up until now. He looked good. Lawrence looked good. Mac Jones, I think, probably looked the best of them this weekend.
Fields also won.
Yeah. That was a weird game, though. I mean, the fact that the Lions had the first three possessions, got into the red zone, and came away with no points, just kind of a weird game.
So we discussed who potentially is the best team, even though we don't do power rankings. Who do you still feel is the worst team in the NFL? Going into week 17, you have to play one team. Who do you want to play?
I still think the Jags. I know
the Jags, you said?
Not the Jets. The Jags. No, the Jags. I know they pushed the Bengals close, but it was Thursday night football. I don't know. I don't think the Bengals are that good anyway. So it's like, okay, you pushed a kind of okay team close.
Yeah.
I think encouraging signs for Lawrence in that performance, but I still think they're probably the worst team.
Yeah. And I mean, they might be the worst team, but they have the coach that can grind a random woman on the dance floor the best, apparently. I don't know if you guys saw that, but Urban Meyer, you didn't see this? This is all the news this morning. Urban Meyer, after the game, went out because he had family where they play again? I can't think of it now. Cincinnati, Ohio. That's right. He was in Ohio because that's where originally he's from. So he had family in Ohio. So he stayed and went to a bar with family and friends. And then there was a random other group of people that were kind of pulling him out to dance and take pictures. And there's this video of like him and a woman dancing quite inappropriately on the dance floor, and it's been released. And there's been the owner of the Jaguars released a statement saying that he's extremely disappointed and that he needs to do better. And apparently there's been reports that Meyer has completely lost the locker room, like the respect in the locker room, and he has no credibility. And he had to come out today in a press conference and say that he aims to get everyone's trust and respect back, and he has to rebuild and everything that he lost in this moment of whatever he called it, I forget. But yeah, pretty interesting from a coach who's already on the hot seat to now have this going on. That it's not helping his situation in Jacksonville for sure.
That's kind of funny. I mean, in terms of worst teams as well, I think the Texans are there, but Eddie with the Jags makes sense as well because both of them just have complete turmoil around them. But at least the Texans have won something. But
yeah, the Texans. The thing would be, okay, next week I'd want to play the Texans, but the Texans at least have, if they get a bit healthier, if they have a competent quarterback playing again, then I think they might be better. But you're right. If I got to play a game next weekend, then I want it to be the Texans.
Davis Mills, I think, had one of the worst statistical performances in the history of NFL quarterbacking. They said his QBR was like 0.5 or something crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going well for him. He should enjoy the time he's getting in the NFL because he's not going to get much.
That sounds more like a threat.
He should enjoy that Stanford win from his alumni. Yeah, or as an alumni.
I'm just watching the Urban Meyer video.
Not a good look, right?
It's not a good look, regardless of the fact that even if he hadn't been married, it's not a good look for a man of his age.
Yeah,
I'll say that.
He's at least being conservative, 35 years older than her.
Yeah,
it's just the awkwardness of how he's like, he's holding her like a rabbit. Kind of like how you would have sex with a rabbit.
How you would have sex with a rabbit, Sam? Or
oh yeah, bad sentence. How rabbits have sex.
Yeah, I'm a bit concerned that you've previously put thought into how you would have sex with a rabbit, but I guess times have maybe been difficult during the pandemic. So, from one former college football coach, maybe we can transition to another former college football coach, and that is Ted Lasso. The season is coming to an end.
Yeah.
This episode finally revealed what was going on in the championship table. So we finally know.
And surprise, surprise.
They're going to go up.
We've just gone from like Christmas to one game left.
No. They must be second because the commentator said they're one win away from automatic promotion. So if it's in their own hands, they must be second in the table. So yeah, we only got a glimpse.
So you were spot on though about not having them get into the playoff.
Yeah, the FA Cup run.
Confusing.
Now, unless next episode they are going to ram the entire playoff experience into a single episode, which would be incredible. But now it looks as if, which also means they must win the final match of the season because either they're going to start the following season in the playoffs or they're getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs, I guess, is the other possibility. And they could pack that into a single season. But interesting episode. Continued in this pursuit of making Nate the least likable character in TV history. It seems as if that's one of the...
God.
They are ruining his kind of good attitude style, aren't they? But another thing that they continued on as well is just having tons of plot lines randomly start and finish. Like we're one episode off and we've got Sam like potentially like leaving to go to Raja Casablanca.
Can we start there? Can we
Okay.
let's run through plot line by plot line?
Okay.
So
wait,
we'll start
I
with
have one thing to say with that one. So overall, I didn't love the plot line, but he's playing on a championship league team. Surely there have to be better African players than him, that he's the most sought after African player on the planet. I didn't see that.
It would be surprising, I have to say. I don't think there are many players in the championship who would be the most sought after player from their country, let alone their continent. But, I mean, particularly right, he's going Casablanca, so he's buying a club in North Africa, which would mean you would assume that Salah as an Egyptian. Now, this is obviously a fictional universe, so maybe Mo Salah doesn't exist, but as an Egyptian would be more tempting. Vanio Sane would be a higher profile name still if he also exists in the universe. But yeah, that is. Now, I guess the argument would be that he gained fame and respect out of the oil move. And so that's part of the reason why this somewhat unusual billionaire has decided that he wants him to be part of this project of making the world a better place. None of that plot makes sense. No. I'm not an expert totally. I had part of my career where I was focused on Africa. I wouldn't exactly call myself an expert on African accents and dialects. I did find it slightly bizarre that it just seems as if they brought a Ghanaian in who sounded exactly like the Nigerian character, and it seemed as if they were just like, everybody do African accents and no one will really know what you're supposed to sound like anyway. But the plotline doesn't make sense. For starters, he's not that rich by football owner standpoint. They said he'd inherited $1.2 billion. Now, $1.2 billion, you're going to be rich enough to buy any club in the championship, but you're still not exactly. You wouldn't be getting the biggest seat at the table when it came to football owners.
Well, considering how like brazen he is with his spending of money, I mean, he rented out what was the Natural History Museum in Britain and put actors in it. and then did exactly the same for a cafe and bought it just to stage getting Sam. I mean, he's not going
I
to have
thought it
much
was
money
12 billion.
very quickly.
I thought
Was
it was
it 12?
12 billion.
Was
not
it 12
10.
billion?
I don't
Okay.
remember how much.
Okay, maybe.
I thought it was
Anyway.
like 11.7 billion or something.
Okay.
Enough that he won't run out of money doing that 2 or 3 times, because he
Two or
figures he's
three.
got to recruit a whole team, right?
Exactly.
So he's got to get at least 15 players.
Yes.
He's got to do this for.
Yeah. Also,
Sam's
just
right. He'd run out of money if he only had $1 billion.
But
Also
also,
just-
it's just when he turned up in the helicopter as they were training. What if they were was he still going to land if they were training? Like, what was the problem?
I also thought he said he didn't travel with bodyguards, yet in the first scene there's like 50 bodyguards.
yeah, a whole fleet of cars arrived just for security purposes. But I mean, and just look, again, it's one of those things. It's not supposed to be an accurate representation of football, but it's definitely not how you go about buying a player. And it would be, yeah, I mean, it just, none of it makes sense. He doesn't even own the club yet. I mean, there's nothing about it that makes any sort of sense. The possibility, the concept that someone thinks, I mean, who are Casablanca going to be playing? They're just, if he had even said, hey, my goal is that I think we could try and turn the club into being big enough to maybe be in La Liga, that, you know, you're not that far away from Spain, and maybe you could try and create this North African really great club that then has to go through the Spanish. This would be insane. But instead he's just like, oh, I'm going to bring the best African footballers in the world to Casablanca, which it would be a bit like telling me as a European, I want you to come back to Europe. I want you to move to Kiev so that you're back home in Europe. I mean, the cultural similarities between Casablanca and Lagos are slim to none. And so there's that part of it that bothers me. And then also, so he's going to assemble the Harlem Globetrotters of African football and then just make them play semi-professional footballers every week.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing there, because you were just playing the Moroccan league for most of it, unless you're Harlem Globetrotting them, and they just go around the world playing exhibition matches.
So you play in the Moroccan league. There is I don't know the name of the African, the equivalent of the Champions League. There is that, but even that, you're not talking a huge level. The only moment that club would have a chance to shine is during the World Club Championship, which, even if you won it, people wouldn't think that. I mean, it's a second-rate competition that's there more as a gimmick than it is anything else, right? So, I don't know.
It's the CAF Champions League, by the way.
There you go. Well, they could dominate that, and no one would care. I mean, some people would care, but not a lot.
What did you think of the Banksy joke?
Terrible.
Yeah. It wasn't good. The fact that they turned Banksy into like a buffoon, some just like bumbling.
Yeah.
Now, here's the one thing.
How would it be
if that is Banksy?
That is Banksy.
Yeah. Now, that's the only. If it is Banksy, then that's interesting. But then, who is supposedly a big big football supporter, supposedly. But
do you think that's how he would announce it on season 2, Ted Lasso, penultimate episode?
Yeah, that's the way to ruin years of committing to being an unknown person. Yeah, that's the way to go. Overall, with the episode, though, I mean, just all the Sam plot lines, I can leave them.
Yeah, I thought we were going to go plotline to plotline.
By plotline? Okay. Pick the next plotline then.
Roy and Keeley.
I mean, I was of the opinion that the writing was on the wall for their relationship the moment that I think she will get back together with Jamie Tart. I thought the way it came about, as usual, it just feels like sometimes they are squeezing too many plot lines into a single episode. And so I guess it's kind of interesting that they went from this encouraging openness about their relationship to her sharing a piece of news that he clearly found to be devastating. That will probably, it sets them up for there to be turmoil in the multiple reasons, multiple bits of turmoil within the Richmond dressing room, and also for their relationship to come to an end, perhaps because of it. I mean,
I go the opposite. I double down season finale. He proposes.
Oh, no.
That's what I thought was going to happen, right? Because I thought he was struck by the fact that he wasn't married when because the teacher said, "Are you married?" He said no. He got the notification on his phone, and then he's like, "I gotta go." And I thought they were staring into each other's eyes at this photo shoot, and he was going to say, the teacher asked me if I was married. I said no, and I thought to myself, why am I not married? And then proposes. That's what I thought was going to happen. And instead,
I did not go that deep.
No, I kind of thought that too, but I still think
sorry, no.
You think it's going to not happen, and then he will eventually at the end of this season propose.
Maybe we'll be set up for a big fight ending in a love fest. But
what like an orgy?
Yeah, a threesome with Jamie Tart. Yeah.
What about Nate though? I mean,
And
Nate
Nate
clearly wants to be involved with
Nate.
He'll just spit on them for lube.
Oh, that was weird. That was
Nate
weird.
is reaching the level on this show that if I were to see him on the streets, I might just slap him in the face. He is becoming such an unlikable character that it's spanning like the most unlikable characters I've watched on television shows.
And it's interesting, right? Because he started out being so likable. And when I've seen him elsewhere, that is, if you want to say he's kind of typecast as the lovable loser, but that is sort of his kind of a bit bumbling, but intelligent, but nice, but always lacking confidence. That is, whenever I've seen him, that is what he's doing. So maybe as an actor, he likes this transformation because it will make people think of him as someone who can play a different type of role. But he runs the serious risk that this is by far and away the most famous thing he's ever done, potentially career defining if the show continues to grow and runs for 6, 7, 8 seasons. And yes, people will just think of him as, man, you were the guy who really sucked on that show. The spitting thing, like we already discussed it. Right?
I know, yeah. That's got to hit the highest of Eddie's annoyances.
Well, you wouldn't do that, Eddie. Would you not do that if you just randomly kiss
spit
someone?
On the ground.
I don't spit in general ever, but
just only when he's disgusted himself in the mirror.
I want to timeline his trajectory on this show. Season 1, he's the kit man and gets beat around on the team, and no one respects him. Absolutely no one. In comes Ted Lasso, boosts his self-esteem, his abilities, whatever you want to call it, to the point that he gets self-confident. He then gets promoted at the end of season 1 with a newfound self-confidence and self-worth. Season 2 starts. He's instantly an asshole. From the first episode, you see him. He's ripping on the new Kitman. He's yelling at the players like crazy. He's screaming at them. Halfway through the season, he makes a random good call in a match, and it becomes a wonder kid. Takes that level of fame to new heights, starts to spit on mirrors, then goes behind Ted Lasso's back. In this episode, has that meltdown in the locker room about how he'll make the greatest call ever and Ted Lasso won't give him recognition, when that's completely out of Ted Lasso's character, because if Nate told him to do something and it worked, he would 100% give Nate all of the credit. Like more than all of the credit. He'd go above and beyond and say, like, Nate was telling me to do this for years.
I guess the point would be, internally, he might get all the credit, but externally, the credit would go to Ted Lasso. The
I think
counterpoint,
externally,
but the counterpoint would be that he had a whole week where he was labeled a wonder kid and referred to it in multiple newspapers. So even then, you'd be able to point and say, only a couple of months ago, you got a huge amount of external credit for
yeah.
parking the bus. So
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, well, for this terrible thing, because that was the thing. He was going to do it a false nine. But Frank, you've also missed. He's exposing someone's mental health issues to the media. Like that
Yeah.
is the ultimate like down on the arc as well. Like it isn't just that bad. He's full on like he's just become
And
like feral.
and where does he think that in half a year you go from kitman to assistant coach to head coach of a Premier League club in the span of
Well, he's
1
not
year?
an
He
assistant
wants to
coach,
be.
right? He's a first team coach because Coach
Okay.
Beard is clearly the assistant manager. If
So
you
he's
wanted
going
to
from
say,
kitman to first team coach to head coach of a. I mean, obviously they're championship, but they're close to being like a Premier League club.
no, I mean
In
the
what
idea
planet does anyone do that?
well, none. Although I guess maybe in Ted Lasso because Ted Lasso became a manager of a Premier League club, but
I guess. Maybe that's why he's so pissed. He saw Ted's trajectory.
exactly. But you're right. That's what makes it annoying. Is it's not as if he's had years waiting for this opportunity, and that would have made more sense as a character if Ted Lasso had come in and he'd kept this experienced coach there who felt as if he was consistently providing the technical knowledge that Ted Lasso needed, but was never getting the credit. And then as it was suddenly frustrated of, you know what, why does this guy get to make the decisions? But instead it's, hey, no, this new boss came in, turned me from a nobody into having a really good job, has empowered me all along the way, but I don't like it because I should be getting bigger faster. It's also, they incorrectly explained what a false nine is. This idea that playing with a false nine means that you're playing with no one up front is completely wrong. It just means that the player playing up front drops into midfield more frequently, but it's not as if the false nine is not a midfield position. So
Oh, they
already
did make it sound like that. Coach Beard said it, didn't he? He was like they they pick it up in midfield more, which is true. But
He
then
kind
Ted
of
says
describes
something
it
as
right,
well.
but doesn't.
No, but they
No.
make it sound like they're playing like a 4-6-0 rather
Yes.
than like what it
Yeah.
actually is. Like it's kind of like it's essentially more like a 4-3-3, but the center drops back more.
Also, why would you be on an seemingly incredible run of form, right? That was what the commentary said when their match finished. You're then going into the final match of the season, admittedly against a team that should be tough opposition. They're playing Brentford in the final match. A little bit of a downer for the show because obviously they made this show before Brentford were promoted, but it doesn't make sense that they're playing Brentford if you're then trying to compare it with real life. Not that the show makes a lot of sense anyway, but technically what must be a difficult match. Why would you be coming up with a completely new tactic? It'd be as if like you're making the Super Bowl and your offensive coordinator comes to you and goes like, for this game, we're not playing with any wide receivers.
I'd love to hear that curveball. But you're right. Like, it's hardly like a Mighty Ducks flying V moment. He's just gone, I think we should play a formation that's very well known.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing groundbreaking about what he's doing.
No, it would have made more sense if he'd come up with a new set piece routine or something. But yeah, the idea of, hey, I'm playing this tactic that Barcelona made pretty famous at times with Messi playing as a false nine. You know that? I think we should try that maybe. But
I also really resent the fact that he thinks if he proposed it and that's why they won, that Ted wouldn't in the media say that it was Nate's idea. Because I 100% believe Ted Lasso would give all the credit to where it's due. I mean, that's his whole MO, right? Is like he puts people in the spotlight when they should be in the spotlight. Like when what's his face with the oil spill, he like brought him in to the press conference and made him speak. You know, like he would definitely do the same with Nate. So even that alone is out of character, that Nate can't even read the type of person Ted Lasso is. I mean, he's just so hateable right now.
I mean,
you
I
just,
think
you just want to see him just disappear from the show.
I think the argument would be, well, I think we might be about to see that, but I think the argument would be that Ted Lasso takes zero credit, like, for anything, even when he is responsible. And that would actually be more annoying in some respects, because that might undermine the concept of giving credit to other people, because maybe everyone says, well, Ted Lasso never gives credit, so he's probably underplaying the significance of what he does. That might be the only thing you could make, but that's not what that's not what they're putting forward, right? But I don't know. It doesn't make sense. And then, yes, obviously there's the big reveal at the end. Interesting exchange from a text message perspective from a reporter. A little bit weird.
Like the Trent Krim. Next one, The Independent. That's pretty good.
But I mean, part of it is, how big of a storyline would this be in real life if a championship manager had a panic attack, or had been hit by anxiety mid-match? I don't know if it would get the attention of the wider world. I don't know if The Independent would be running a major story about it, I have to say. Now, admittedly, Ted Lasso probably has a profile that's a bit bigger just because of his storyline.
I think if the story had run, it would have been news, but it would have been more to strike a debate about being open about that within the sport, right? As opposed to being like a power struggle for Nate running the story and trying to like get to the top. I don't know.
I mean, genuinely think in real life, if that story was run, the response would be, "Oh, that's a shame. I hope he's okay." And then asking him, "Do you feel better?" There would be a few people who'd have asked him maybe, "Oh, does this mean that you think in high pressured moments there's a likelihood that it could happen again?" I think that would be the only discussion, but I don't think it certainly wouldn't be spun into some, "Oh, wow, Ted Lasso not fit to be manager of a championship or premiership side," because
not the way Nate would want it to go fundamentally.
I mean, it would be similar to kind of like what happened with Simone Biles, right? Where she kind of had a very similar situation, and it wasn't ripping on Simone Biles. It was addressing, anxiety and high stress levels in sports and mental health issues in general. I think it would actually be a more positive response than the way Nate is trying to do it, because Nate apparently is the biggest asshole in all of England. His last name should be Harbaugh. Maybe that's it. But
yeah,
it's just what is the most egregious thing Nate does the episode? Goes behind his back and gives him that, kisses Keeley, or spits on the glass mirror in the most expensive suit shop in London?
I think it's the spitting on the mirror, because I think the spitting on the mirror, the guy's going to go in there and be like, "Why is there spit all over the mirror?"
I thought the champagne was nice.
And then he would have messaged Keeley saying, "Your friend spat all over the mirror in the," you know what I mean? Like, he would have looked like more of a weirdo out of that. And I'm like, what weird fetish does he have where he's like getting changed publicly and spits all over something? Probably the guy would have been like, "I'm not sure this is spit." Probably would have been maybe some of his first thoughts.
Oh.
But yeah, three really bad moments for him. And do we think he's out of the? Okay, do we think? What's the is Ted Lasso just because obviously they made him? He looked angry. Does he react with this just full of rage, or is this the moment where he puts his arm around Nate's shoulder, gets a better understanding of his frustration, and they come out stronger for it as a result?
I think it's going to be that.
The second one would be more fitting of Ted, like regardless. Like, remember how he dealt with realizing that he was only brought on to see the club fail. Like, he was just like, "I'm fine with it." And I think he would continue to be fine with it. It would be an interesting twist if Ted suddenly became worse than Nate and was just like, "Everyone out here, like, I don't have Sharon anymore. No. She's gone."
Sam,
and
what are you
suddenly Ted just goes the complete opposite way and starts going full on.
That's not a possibility. I think there are two.
He could fire him.
Yeah, he either gets fired, Ted yells at him, everyone thinks he's a piece of shit, he gets fired. Or Ted says they have a heart-to-heart talk and they get an understanding of why Nate's so frustrated, and Ted fixes Nate, basically. I think it's a possibility. And that Nate then goes back to being a lovable character. And we look back on the season 2 of Ted Lasso being like, what a weird storyline, like story arc they created for this character who they then tried to make us like again. I think that is more likely.
I think you're hitting home with the major issue though, is any way this goes, Nate can no longer be likable. You can't now 180 Nate on me and have me be, oh yeah, he's a great guy. He's a good character. Yeah, like he's done. I don't care what they try and do. He's done.
The only way this makes sense to me is if the actor playing the role needs to leave the show and they felt like this was the only way of getting him to leave that made any sort of sense. It was like, because he can't get fired for any other reason because that's not a Ted Lasso move. And if everyone still loved him and he was the likable person within the dressing room, they would have never got rid of him. They would have done anything to keep him. And so the only thing that could explain turning him into such a dislikable character and then having this happen is that he needed to be gone end of season 2. And this is how they came up with getting rid of him.
Yeah, maybe. So I did see in the news that Ted Lasso got the rights to use Premier League's clubs and logos and things like that. So with that information, I believe they're going to make it into the Premier League.
Oh no, really? You don't think they just paid for those just or just throwing us off the scent?
Nope. Oh yeah, that'd be interesting. So I think they get promoted. I think Roy proposes to Keeley, and I think Nate dies.
What do you think happens in the Roy Kent, Jamie Tart dynamic?
I think they respect each other, because at least Jamie didn't do anything. I mean, Nate was worse, and he didn't even have a previous relationship with Keeley, and he's still trying to make out with her.
But that's the difference.
All Jamie did was approach her and say he still has feelings for her.
Still loved her more than just feelings. The difference is that Nate. The difference is that Nate isn't a threat. That's why. We've all been in relationships and there's a person where you're like, this person obviously is interested in the person I'm with, but you think it doesn't matter. You can try all you want. You're not a threat here. Versus the Jamie Tart is obviously, she's previously had feelings for him, previously dated him. They have a history together. And so he is a legitimate threat to whatever Roy Kent has himself. So I could understand the difference of her saying, Nate kissed me, and just thinking, well, what a sad little loser. He's obviously read that wrong.
What about Sharon leaving?
That's the name of the shrink?
The therapist, yeah, the therapist.
It doesn't make any sense to me that they've brought her in, they've seen value in what she does, and then they've basically turned around and gone, that was enough mental health.
Yeah, your contract's up and we're not going to renew it. There's no benefit to what you're doing. Because I actually liked it. I liked the whole arc with her. I wasn't a huge fan of like her character, but I think it's because of what it brought out of Ted Lasso I liked. As opposed to the actual like story arc with her.
I think they could have done that without having as significant of an impact on the overall show. I think they could have revealed Ted's individual problems more easily, but I'm kind of glad to see the back of her. But then, this is going to bring her. This potentially just brings her right back in, right? This might be the catalyst for why she has to stay, because now Ted will feel as if he can't trust people, and that's a whole different issue, and he needs to still have her around as this sort of guiding hand and safe space that he can have.
Well, I think they need her around because she comes in, they're in last place. She turns everyone on the team around,
That's
and
true.
now they're in first.
Yeah, she's pretty valuable. And also, let's
Yeah.
not underestimate
we're
the
good.
importance
Goodbye.
of Higgins as well in all of this. You know, he made that incredible pun that got Ted to come back and get the letter anyway. When he said, "Don't let her get away with it," and then he comes back in. I don't know why, but I liked that moment just when he came back and he was so
I'm glad
annoyed at
someone
like
liked
how
it.
good the pun was. I think
That
it's
was
just
pretty good.
Higgins. Higgins has his office back. He's back in the big time.
Yeah, because there's only 2 offices in the building.
Ex
But
Premier League club.
yeah, it'll be an interesting one. It'll be interesting to see, and I hope that it ends on a high because I hope it gets me. I was so looking forward to season 2 coming out. At the moment, the prospect of season 3, it's like I'll watch it, but I'm not gonna be. I'm not gonna be actively checking when's the release date for season 3. Oh, cool. That will be nice to have. It'll be more of Ted Lasso's back. That's something to watch for 30 minutes of my life a week.
You're a Debbie Downer. It's still, I think, one of the better shows on television.
All right, Eddie. Do you want a good question for you? So, in the same way that they were going to do the NSYNC bye bye bye, kind of what do you call it, like dance sync, for her leaving party. What would you like for your leaving party? If you were ever going to leave somewhere and someone created a choreography for you, what song would you like?
I don't know what would be the most appropriate song to play during a suicide bombing. That would be the only thing I would want as a reaction to a choreographed dance. I have no idea. I would be, if someone did that for me, someone who recently left a company, 6 months ago, and the extent of the leaving was a few messages on Slack and the gift of a shitty cactus. I think
It's a cactus that shit itself.
I wish that would be interesting.
You should sell that to science.
Is it a cactus or a succulent?
I guess more of a succulent than a cactus, yeah. Okay. But it's not a nice one. You know, you can get very expensive succulents. It could have been a really nice, and I could have found a space for that in my house. It would have been a bit annoying, but it was a really crappy one. And now it sits on my desk as a constant reminder of the fact that my previous company didn't really care or learn anything about me in the 2.5 years that I was there. But
do you want to unpack that? Shall I get Sharon? We'll get Sharon. She's not with the show anymore.
True. But speaking of which, bumped into one of my former colleagues at the races on Sunday. That was interesting. Gave him credit. He came up to. I didn't see him. He came up and spoke to me, which was the first time we'd spoken.
That's how your succulent is doing.
No, I don't think he even didn't know that. I don't think he even knew that I got one
as well.
But yeah, no, that's what you hope for, Sam. Those are the exact exchanges you dream of. Yeah. Any other? I guess. Speaking of Ted Lasso, real life football, worth just mentioning that we talked a bit in the build up to the City Liverpool match. So came out with it. We only caught the final 20 minutes of it, I guess, something like that, Sam. I've subsequently watched the highlights, but it looked like City were on top. It was an interesting, a lot of the post-match analysis. We spoke after they beat Chelsea, and everyone said, see, they didn't need Harry Kane because they can dominate matches and take chances. And then after this match, when they dominated in the match but didn't win, a lot of the post-match analysis has said, oh, they do need a real goal scorer. So it is one of those, it's so dumb. It changes week to week based on whether or not they've won. But it keeps the Premier League. I mean, it's going to be an interesting title race going forward. I do think City will pull away in the end, but it's certainly, the next few months will be interesting.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of kept the feeling of the league a bit more like there could be multiple people at the top. Whereas if this game, we obviously had this chat, but if this game had gone to Man City in the way they dominated Chelsea, and I do think when you watch the highlights, like Liverpool, I feel like Liverpool got away with it a little bit. It was more like Man City, like you say, unable to hit the target and have that kind of real kind of danger up top. But I think if Man City had won this, I would have not been far off saying, well, there's one winner in it. But now, Liverpool stay in it. Chelsea is still up there because of both of them dropping points. Even though Man U have had a pretty rocky couple of games, they're still up there as well. So it feels like it's going to go further than what I thought if Man City had just dominated this one as well.
One of the weird bits of analysis that came out of this match, I don't know if you saw the comments from Michael Owen in a more general response to some of the recent football, but he said that Sancho and Grealish's performances post big transfers was proof that once again England, you have to pay a premium for English players, and that in watching them, neither of them struck him as players who justified their price tags, and that at 80 million and 100 million, he thought they were players closer to being worth 25 and 30 million. I don't know if Michael Owen stopped paying attention to transfer fees when he retired from football, but I don't know in what world he thinks you would buy either of those players for 25 to 30 million players, regardless of nationality.
Such dumb. It's almost just completely pointless as a comment as well, because even like before, like around his time, you had like Rio Ferdinand going for like 28 million from Man U to Leeds. And
sure, I mean, I guess the argument would be Rio Ferdinand was one of the best defenders in the world. So he justified that expense. Whereas his point would be Grealish and Sancho may not be amongst the world's elite. The thing is, I think Grealish has been pretty good so far this season for City.
I do. You can say some problems with Sancho. Like it's hardly been like the most kind of devastating opening like 7 to 10 games of the season for Sancho's career at Man U. But I think Grealish has been very consistent. He's doing exactly what he did at Villa. He wins possession and he wins fouls and he wins. He basically kind of bosses a midfield in that respect, and I think he's doing it at a bigger club at the moment. So I don't really understand his problem there. You could maybe argue a tiny bit more for Sancho, but I don't really understand it. I sometimes think as well that we always think, because we see these players week in, week out constantly, sometimes it feels like a higher fee as well, whereby when you see, I don't know, like for example, when, I don't know, Man U bought Cristiano Ronaldo from Lisbon or something like that, you only hear about it. You don't see them week in and week out. So you don't know too much about whether the transfer fee is justified. Whereas I think when
you mean prior to them signing?
Yes, prior to them signing, because you don't.
It sounds as if you're implying that we didn't get to see Cristiano Ronaldo at Manchester United for a while, so we didn't know.
No. If I missaid it,
I mean, I guess that's maybe not, because Sancho was at Dortmund, and whilst he was on the radar because he played for England, but hadn't played for that much for England, I don't think a lot of people were really watching him at Dortmund. But I think you got to give people time, right? It's a little bit like we've discussed with quarterbacks in the NFL. There's this temptation to think that within 2-3 months, you're either the finished product or proven that you're not good enough. And, Sancho in particular is still a very young player, and at a club where you can only play if you are performing week in, week out. And there's competition for places a lot in the position in which he plays. And it would take a little bit of time for him to... And coming back off the back, even though he wasn't playing that much in the Euros, still obviously didn't have a big preseason, didn't have time to really get used to being at United and the tactics and the approach. I think you give a player a full season and then assess next year. Does it look as if they'll be good enough?
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, Man U have had like an ultimate disruption with Cristiano Ronaldo coming in as well. Not to say that would hamper Sancho, but clearly a lot of things get moved around for Ronaldo, which did you hear the comments that apparently he kind of stormed down the tunnel after the result against Everton? And I haven't really seen it, or whether it's kind of substantiated as like whether he just walked down really quickly or actually stormed down. But it does seem to be this thing with Man U, like if he's not playing, they're not winning.
No, who cares? Do you want him to not be upset when Manchester United don't win?
100% agree with you. Like if he's annoyed at the result, then that's great. That's what you want from a player, right?
No, even if I don't care if he's annoyed with his teammates because they let him down. If he's annoyed with the manager because he thinks he got the tactics wrong, I don't care. You're allowed to show, and good managers know that, and managers who played to talk about it. I mean, you had the big moment right last year when Mane refused to shake Klopp's hand, and Klopp said, "Who cares? I don't care that he's unhappy with me. I have to make difficult decisions, and players aren't always going to like them." And then they're allowed to vent that frustration, and then afterwards we move on because that's what you do. It's like in being in any job, you're basically asking for these players to just be vapid morons who go out and kick a football around for a while and then walk off with massive smiles on their faces and just sign autographs and point to sponsorship deals. I don't want that. Part of what makes Cristiano Ronaldo good is that he really, really, really cares about winning. And part of really caring
Sam,
about...
you struck a nerve there.
No, but I mean, just in...
Jeez, Sam. Talk about poking the bear.
But in general, right, we've seen that even with the Tom Brady thing. Part of what Tom Brady, why he's still performing at this level is because it doesn't look to me like Ben Roethlisberger is that bothered by the fact that he's just out there ruining Pittsburgh. Like when you see him, he looks a little dejected on the sidelines, but it's not as if there's not a kind of burning rage within him to continue to perform at the elite level. Whereas you see someone like Tom Brady, and that there is. That there's no way he would just be doing what Ben Roethlisberger is doing and letting it go by. So I hope he's pissed. United haven't been that good in a lot of matches this season.
Do you think he spit on the mirror when he got into the locker room?
Probably just on Solskjaer. Screw the mirror.
He kissed his wife.
Yeah. Any other topics from the weekend?
Yeah, so I had one. Did you see Deschambault competed in the longest drive competition and got 7th? Which is, I mean, fairly impressive for a professional golfer to go into something that's completely almost different from golfing, right? It's almost entirely a different sport, the way they're swinging and striking the ball. And he got 7th, and his best drive was 406, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one you could think could realistically do it, right? Because I think otherwise, for most golfers, it would be a little bit like when baseball players play in the home run derby and they say it ruins their swing. And I guess with Deschambault, just because his normal approach to drives is to he's working on getting every inch out of it every time, then I guess he can get away with doing that. But I think for most of them, the changes they'd have to make to their technique, you'd run the risk that it just ruins your season because you're never able to get, you make some adjustments and then you can't adjust back.
But then I think the bigger Deschambault news was just announced today that he's playing in the match against Brooks Koepka. Interestingly, a 12-hole match play, not 18. I don't know why it's only 12. I actually think maybe because 18 is too long, because if you watch some of the matches that they have, it drags after a while. And I think maybe they're trying to find that sweet spot where it's entertaining and fun long enough, but not too long that people are bored with it. So maybe that's why they're going to do that. But I don't know if I like this, because obviously it means that they're on better terms. And I don't think it'll be genuine in the sense that Brooks Koepka isn't going to say anything negative to Deschambault, like the interaction that happened when he walked by. It's not going to be a genuine dislike anymore. It's going to be, like, oh, what's he going to try and do? Drive it over the green? Like stupid jokes where it's not like him just being like, God, he's such an asshole. You're not going to hear that.
Yeah, I think after the Ryder Cup as well, it's very hard for them now to do anything that would look like continuing with that rivalry, because they were obviously not good friends at the Ryder Cup, but obviously they put all the differences aside. I think it would just look quite fake if they went back to what it was before the Ryder Cup.
Oh, no, I think it's the opposite.
Oh, really?
I think it's the total opposite. I think they could come out and be like, I hate him, but I know that when I switch to a team event that you have to perform well and get along with people you hate. But I think he's an absolute asshole. I think you could do that, and I would think cool. And they'd say next
They
time
won't.
they won't. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying to Sam's point of, oh, it would look fake to try and sort of re-embrace the dislike. I think it would be way more genuine for them to say, we really don't like each other, but when the Ryder Cup rolls around or the President Cup rolls around and we have to be a team, that we can put that aside for 1 week and be teammates. And we'll probably never be in a foursome together. We're never going to be paired together, but I'm not going to go out of my way to ruin his week so that the team is hurt by it. But every other, so 1 week every 2 years, we're competing with each other, and the rest of the time, and we're competing with each other, and the rest of the time, I hate him. I'd love that. But it's not, you're right, it's not going to happen. And the only thing that will probably also happen is they'll have some sort of pre-agreed to references to what was going on. So maybe Bryson will sign off on Koepka saying Brooksy or something to him a couple of times, jokingly in what is clearly a pleasant manner. I'm sure that sort of thing might happen, but yeah, we're not going to get real animosity. That would be amazing.
Almost like fight in a way.
But yeah, I think it ruins the competition between them generally, and also I think the match was more fun when it was rivals, but people who you thought actually kind of got along. So they were bringing humor and a fun interaction, like the type of people you thought would play golf together privately, normally, and be competitive and have their little
and
jabs.
rip on each other a little.
Yeah, but we're friends, but I am going to try and make fun of you here. Versus this of, I'd really like to say something worse, but I got to be nice. Anything else?
I think that about wraps it up for this episode. Got a quick turnaround, and then next week's NFL picks.
Yeah.
We're almost a quarter of the way through the season.
Yeah, it goes by fast. And this is a difficult week coming up.
Good matchups.
Very difficult for
International
Survivor,
football
indeed.
as well.
How are you leaning Survivor? Yeah. How are you leaning Survivor-wise, Frank?
I'm going with the team that lost to the worst team in the NFL and saying that they're not going to lose 2 in a row to the 2 worst teams in the NFL. Meaning I'm going Titans, I think.
Yeah. The doubt there, I guess, is I like to see what the injury status is and just to see if there is some kind of wide receiver available. I'm a little bit tempted because obviously you get to pick teams twice. I'm a little bit tempted by taking the Cowboys against the Giants. So for me, I think I'm either going Cowboys, Titans, or Packers. Those are kind of the 3.
What about the Patriots over the Texans?
I've already used the Patriots. I used the Patriots when they played the Jets. Otherwise, I would be using the Patriots, I think.
Yeah, I'm either going to go Patriots or Titans, I think. I'm not sure yet. The biggest spread is Tampa Bay over the Dolphins.
Yeah, and I've not used Tampa Bay yet, but I kind of feel as if I want to keep... I'm trying to keep all the good teams. Now, I would put the Cowboys into the good team bubble, but I'm trying to keep all those good teams available so that, I think this pool started with around 1,200 people. We're now down to about 400. And if I can get to a stage where there's only 150, 200, and I still have all the big teams in my back pocket, I'm in the driving seat.
But that logic almost cost you last week with the Bengals.
It did, but if I hadn't taken the Bengals, I would have taken the Titans. So I would be out.
Yeah.
So in a sense, it saved me because I would have taken the Titans for sure if I hadn't taken the Bengals.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see who you take on our next podcast.
Yeah. Exciting news for everyone to look forward to. See ya.
Cheerio.